San Aurelia didn't look like a city built on secrets, but anyone who lived long enough in its sunlit streets knew the truth. Shadows ruled it. And in those shadows stood one man above the rest, Leon Cato. His name alone made seasoned criminals swallow hard, brokers adjust their ties, and rivals reconsider their ambition. He was sleek, calculating, and deadly calm. But none of that mattered in the walls of his mansion, because there, all the power in the world could not help him save the one person who needed him most, his little boy, Eli. Eli had once been a lively 7-year-old who'd run through the hallways with toy cars and loud laughter. That was before the night everything broke apart. A violent intrusion by masked men had left the house in shambles and Eli psychologically shattered. For 6 months, he hadn't spoken a single word. Not a whisper, not a cry, nothing. He communicated only with his eyes, wide and watchful like a startled deer. There were days when Leon stood by the boy's doorway, watching his son sit in silence with puzzles spread around him. Leon would clench his jaw, frustrated at his own helplessness. He had crushed rival syndicates, outwitted federal traps, and negotiated impossible alliances with a calm, elegant ruthlessness. Yet the one thing he couldn't overcome was his son's trauma. Fear didn't bow to power. That was Eli's world, quiet, fragile, and shrinking, until the afternoon the mansion's gates opened for a new hire named Mara Linden. She came in wearing a neatly pressed uniform, her dark curls pulled into a bun, her posture straight but gentle. She was 28, soft-spoken but observant, the kind of woman whose presence felt like a warm blanket on a cold night. The staff whispered she was new, probably temporary, probably would quit like the last 3 who ran the moment they felt the tension in the house. Mara, however, walked in calmly like she'd already decided fear had no authority over her. The first time she saw Eli, he was sitting on the floor of the garden corridor, trying to assemble a puzzle of a lion. His fingers trembled when she approached, and he swiftly pulled the puzzle closer as though anyone coming near it posed a threat. Mara crouched down. Not close enough to crowd him, just enough so he knew she wasn't towering over him. "You don't have to say anything," she murmured softly, as if speaking to a breeze. "I'm only passing through." She started to stand, but something made her pause. Eli's foot was positioned oddly, knees bent, toes pointing slightly inward, the beginnings of a stance she recognized instantly. It was subtle, almost unconscious, as though his body remembered something his mind had forgotten. She turned slightly away from him and, without any announcement, slid into a grounding martial arts stance, her feet apart, knees lowered, back straight. It was the same stance she used to practice with her grandfather in their small apartment years ago. Eli's eyes flicked up, then down, then back up. Mara didn't say a word. She simply breathed, slow, controlled, steady. She imagined he would ignore her, but then she heard it, a tiny shuffle of movement. She glanced out of the corner of her eye. Eli had adjusted his posture, copying her almost precisely. She exhaled a small, discreet smile. She whispered, "This one helps you feel the floor holding you up. Makes the world a bit less shaky." Eli's gaze lowered to the tiles beneath him. His shoulders eased, only a fraction, but enough to notice. That was the moment Leon walked in. He turned the corner expecting to find his son isolated and afraid again, but instead, he froze. His breath stalled. Mara was standing there in a quiet, powerful stance, and beside her his fragile boy was mirroring her, steadying himself. Like a tiny warrior, Leon didn't speak. He didn't dare break the moment. In the days that followed, Mara kept her interactions with Eli unforced and gentle. She never demanded conversation, never pressed him to engage, never hovered. Instead, she practiced small movements, breathing techniques, simple stretches, grounding exercises. Each time she practiced, Eli inched a little closer, watching intently. One morning, when Mara performed the stance again, Eli shuffled forward on his own. He tapped her wrist lightly and pointed to her feet, as if asking for correction. Mara lowered her voice. "You want to try it together?" Eli nodded once, quick but certain. They practiced quietly. Mara would show a movement, then Eli would mimic it with surprising accuracy, though with hesitation. They spent 20 minutes this way until Mara softly said, "You're strong. Even if you don't feel it yet." His lip trembled. For a moment, she thought he might cry, but instead, he took a shaky breath. Just one, but a breath she hadn't seen him willingly take in months. Later that afternoon, Mara was wiping down the counters in the kitchen when Leon entered. She stepped aside quickly, unsure how close was appropriate around a man with his reputation. He examined her for a moment before speaking. "My son is different with you," he said quietly. Calmer. Mara tried to downplay it. "Children aren't puzzles you force pieces into. Sometimes they just come forward when they feel safe." Leon's expression shifted. Quieter, vulnerable in a way she didn't expect from a man like him. "I haven't seen him look at anyone like that since the attack." Mara placed the cloth down gently. "Healing isn't a straight line. But he's trying. That matters." "You helped him try," Leon replied. His voice held a gratitude that almost sounded dangerous, like a man unused to relying on anyone, suddenly recognizing he needed someone more than he liked to admit. And just like that, Mara became part of Eli's day, his training, his breathing routines, his quiet companion during puzzle time. Little by little, Eli opened up. A small nod here, a tiny gesture there, a whisper that barely broke the air. Then one afternoon, while practicing in the garden, Eli looked up, stared at Mara, and spoke the first words he'd uttered in half a year. "Again, please." The words were fragile, almost weightless, but Mara felt them like thunder. She swallowed hard. "Of course. We can go again." Leon, watching from the second-floor balcony, closed his eyes. For the first time in months, he felt something close to hope. The car rolled deeper into Sungjin's estate, and Amal could finally exhale as the wrought iron gates shut behind them. Inside, manicured gardens stretched in neat terraces, each one adorned with stone lanterns and water features that whispered as they trickled. Though it was gorgeous, she sensed the kind of beauty that hid sharpened edges. Even the flowers seemed to grow in obedient lines. A house like this, she thought, was run by people who didn't tolerate chaos. People who expected things done their way. A middle-aged woman stepped out from the wide front door as though she'd been waiting. "You must be the new home assistant," she said, offering a stiff nod. Her voice had the clipped tone of someone who believed in schedules more than smiles. "I'm Mrs. Park, house superintendent." "Amal," she replied warmly. Mrs. Park did not return the warmth. She turned briskly on her heel. "You'll follow me. The master is with company. Do not disturb him. Once you meet young June, your primary task begins." Amal walked behind her, taking in the hallways that glowed with amber lights bouncing off polished wooden floors. Every corner had an antique sword, a silk tapestry, or a jade ornament displayed with almost ceremonial precision. It wasn't simply a home. It was a fortress wearing luxury as its disguise. They passed two guards in suits who tried to appear casual but couldn't hide their military posture. One gave Amal a quick glance, curiosity coated with suspicion. So the rumors were true, she thought. This man wasn't just wealthy. He was someone powerful, someone feared. Mrs. Park continued, "Young June is 8. Bright child. Spirited. He requires structure." "Spirited," Amal repeated, hiding a smile. That usually meant uncontrollable. Mrs. Park stopped at a frosted sliding door with a painted crane drifting across it. "He's inside. He may test you. But remember, no matter what he does, do not raise your voice. The master dislikes unnecessary noise." Amal nodded. "I understand." When the door slid open, she found a boy perched atop a low table like a tiny emperor, his legs swinging as he tapped at a handheld console. His hair was tousled, his eyes sharp with mischief. He looked her up and down. "You're not like the others," he declared. "And you say that as if you've seen 1,000 helpers," Amal teased gently. "I didn't say I haven't." He dropped the console. "Where are you from?" "A place where the sun feels like it hugs you," she replied. "You? A place where winter bosses everyone around." He grinned. She chuckled. Mrs. Park cleared her throat as if humor were against house regulations. "This is Amal," she announced. "She'll handle your routines and keep things in order." "I don't need order," the boy said defiantly. "I need fun." "No," Mrs. Park countered sharply. "You need discipline." The boy rolled his eyes. Mrs. Park left with a bow that felt more like a warning than a farewell. The door clicked shut. "Okay," Amal said, hands on her hips. "Tell me something. Why do you look like someone stole the last cookie from the jar? Young Jun shrugged. This place is boring. I'm not allowed to go anywhere. And the helpers they bring are either scared of me or scared of my father. She sat beside him. And which one should I be scared of? He blinked, then smirked. Both. She leaned closer. Let me tell you a secret. I've faced things much scarier than a small boy sitting on a table. His smirk widened. He liked her already. Before she could say more, a sudden thud echoed from somewhere in the hall. The sound was heavy, too heavy to belong to something like a fallen vase. Amal instinctively stiffened. The boy didn't react, meaning this house probably made noises like that often. Your father's business sounds lively, she said. Young Jun shrugged again. People come and go. Sometimes they leave through the back door. She let that pass. Well, my job is to keep you occupied. What do you enjoy doing? He hopped off the table. Everything they won't let me do. She laughed. And what is that? He gave her a sly grin. Come. He dragged her toward the courtyard door. She opened her mouth to stop him. Mrs. Park had clearly said do not disturb the master, but young Jun pulled with surprising determination. When the door slid open, a grand courtyard revealed itself, flanked by stone walls and bamboo swaying like quiet guardians. Sunlight spilled over the training mats lined in perfect rows. Young Jun walked straight onto the mats, planting his feet with the pride of a child who believed this was his personal kingdom. You practice martial arts? Amal asked. He puffed his tiny chest. Appa says every Kim must be strong. Well, let's see what you've got. He brightened instantly, bouncing on his toes like a sparrow on caffeine. Really? You'll train with me? Why not? That was all he needed. He crouched dramatically, fists lifted. His form was more cartoon than combat, but his energy was undeniable. Amal couldn't help chuckling. Okay, little warrior, show me your fiercest move. Young Jun darted forward with a wild punch. She sidestepped effortlessly and tapped his shoulder. You fight like a noodle, she teased. His jaw dropped. A noodle, a very soft noodle. He charged again, laughing this time, more excited than offended. They danced around the mat, him attacking with youthful frenzy, her deflecting with graceful ease. Eventually, she grabbed his wrist gently and pivoted, redirecting his momentum until he landed softly on the mat, looking shocked and thrilled. Teach me that, he demanded. She raised an eyebrow. That move is for someone who listens. I'll listen a lot, she grinned. All right then. And so, she began teaching him small moves, how to plant his feet, how to breathe, how to strike without losing balance. Young Jun absorbed every instruction like he'd been starved for real engagement. Unbeknownst to them, a tall shadow had appeared at the balcony above. The master of the house, Jin-Ho Kim, stood with one hand resting against the railing, eyes narrowed not in anger but in shock. His suit jacket hung open, revealing a pistol holster beneath, casual, like it was part of him. His aura radiated quiet dominance. But in that moment, he wasn't thinking about power or control. He was staring at his son. His son, laughing, focused, energized, defending himself with surprising coordination under the guidance of the new maid who moved with the poise of someone far beyond ordinary. His jaw tightened. He had hired her thinking she'd be like the others, obedient, invisible, easy to replace. But instead, she'd managed to do something no tutor, no guard, no instructor had been able to do. She'd reached young Jun, and Jin-Ho Kim did not know whether to be impressed or alarmed. Jin-Ho Kim watched in utter stillness, his gaze fixed on the courtyard below. A thin plume of breath escaped him, not from exertion but from the sudden realization that something in his world had shifted. He wasn't used to surprises. Surprises got people killed. In his line of work, anything unexpected was either a threat or a mistake. But what he saw now was neither. Or maybe it was both. Young Jun had never moved like that. The boy usually stumbled through lessons with the grace of a sleepy puppy. Every instructor Jin-Ho had hired, martial arts masters, ex-military trainers, even a national Taekwondo champion, had complained that the child had the attention span of a spark. Yet now, his feet were planted properly. His stance had purpose. His eyes were alive, and in front of him, Amal moved with the ease of someone who understood balance and momentum in a way that couldn't be taught from a book. She wasn't simply indulging the boy. She was guiding him, correcting him, challenging him gently. Jin-ho exhaled slowly. She was different. Down below, Young Jun attempted the wrist redirect move she'd shown him earlier. He executed it clumsily, but the essence was there. Amal laughed softly and adjusted his elbows. Their joy echoed in the courtyard. It startled him. Joy was a rare currency in this house. His phone vibrated in his pocket, breaking his trance. He answered without looking. Yes, he said. A voice replied in quick Korean. Chairman, the shipment discussion is beginning. Handle it for now, he said curtly, eyes still pinned on the scene below. I'll join when I'm ready. But sir, he ended the call. He didn't take orders. He gave them, and he certainly didn't enjoy being questioned. The new maid, he needed to assess her. A woman with instincts like that didn't end up in a cleaning job by accident. She moved as if she'd been trained. He stepped away from the balcony, but not before giving one last look at his son, who was now trying to mimic a spinning kick and falling straight onto his back. Amal burst into laughter, and Young Jun joined her, giggling at himself. Jin-ho's expression softened for the briefest moment. Then the mafia boss in him swallowed the father. You almost became a flying pancake, Amal said, offering a hand to lift Young Jun. I did not, he protested, grinning. I was just testing gravity. Well, gravity won, she said. He laughed again, a bright sound that felt like it could warm cold floors. She noticed how freely he smiled when no one else was around. This boy wasn't difficult, he was simply lonely. Surrounded by guards, boundaries, and rules that had been built like invisible prison bars around him. As she brushed off the dust from his shirt, she asked, Do you always train out here alone? No, he frowned. I used to train with Appa, but he's always busy. And the people he hires don't like me. I doubt that. They don't say it. He crossed his arms, looking suddenly older than his 8 years. But they look at me like I'm trouble. Amal crouched in front of him. You're not trouble. Trouble is when someone spills rice all over the floor and pretends it's modern art. Young Jun snorted. Have you done that before? I will neither confirm nor deny. The boy chuckled again, then paused, tilting his head. Is someone watching us? Amal tensed. Why do you ask? He pointed up toward the balcony. I thought I saw Appa. She looked. No one was there now. The railing cast long shadows, but the space was empty. Maybe your eyes are playing tricks, she said gently. Or maybe your father wanted to see his warrior in training. Young Jun lit up at the thought. Do you think he saw my kick? Oh, absolutely, she said, patting his shoulder. And he probably fainted with pride. He puffed his chest like a miniature hero. Before she could say more, Mrs. Park emerged from a side hall, nearly stumbling when she saw the state of the courtyard. 2 figures sweaty, laughing, and absolutely ignoring the master's unspoken rule of silence. She approached with her hands clasped tightly. What is going on here? Training, Young Jun said proudly. Mrs. Park's eyes widened. Training, Miss Amal. This is highly irregular. Oh, relax, Amal replied with an easy smile. The child is safe, happy, and learning something valuable. That is not the issue. You cannot. A loud cough interrupted her. All 3 turned. Jin-ho Kim stood at the courtyard entrance. Mrs. Park's spine straightened so fast it nearly cracked. Master Kim. I apologize. I was just ensuring everything remains in order. He raised a hand to silence her. Amal stood still, her posture respectful yet not submissive. Young Jun ran to him, grabbing his father's hand. Appa, did you see what she taught me? Jin-ho looked down at him, then at Amal. His eyes were unreadable. I saw, he said quietly. Young Jun bounced excitedly. And I'm getting better. She said I have potential. Is that so? Jin-ho asked, shifting his attention to Amal. Her gaze met his, steady, calm, without fear. She bowed subtly. Your son is quick and determined. He just needed someone who matched his energy. For a moment, no one breathed. Mrs. Park stared at Amal with horror, as if she had just spoken directly to a thunderstorm. Then something unexpected happened. The corner of Jin-ho's mouth lifted ever so slightly. A smile, but faint, almost reluctant, like a man trying to remember how to express warmth. My son seems to like you, he said, Amal nodded. He's easy to like. Young Jun beamed at both of them. Jin-ho cleared his throat. Mrs. Park, adjust her schedule. Allow her to supervise his afternoon routines. Mrs. Park blinked as if she'd been slapped with a fish. Yes, sir. Afternoon routines. But that includes. I know what it includes, he said with gentle authority that still felt like a command carved from stone. She will handle it. Mrs. Park bowed stiffly. Yes, Master Kim. Jin-ho turned back to Amal. Come to my office later. I would like to discuss a few matters. She nodded once. Of course. But inside, her mind sharpened. He wanted to assess her. And she needed to make sure she didn't reveal more than she intended. The air shifted as he walked away with Young Jun's small hand in his. Amal watched them, feeling a strange tug in her chest. The Mafia boss had just granted her more proximity to his son than anyone in the house had been allowed in years. And that meant one thing. Her role in this household had just become far more complicated. Later that afternoon, the estate settled into its usual hush, a quiet so dense it felt almost alive. Amal found herself standing outside Jin-ho's study, staring at the lacquered wooden door that separated her from the most dangerous man she had ever worked for. She wasn't easily intimidated, but something about him made her pulse steady itself, like her body instinctively preparing for a test. She knocked. A low voice answered, "Enter." She stepped in. The room was a fortress of sophistication. Dark walls, shelves of ancient books, a glass case displaying weapons that were probably older than the country itself. Behind a massive desk sat Jin-ho, sleeves rolled up, revealing forearms marked by faint scars that told stories he'd never share. He didn't look up immediately. He finished signing a document, closed the folder, then finally lifted his gaze to her. Sharp eyes, calculating, yet not hostile. "Sit," he said. She obeyed, her posture neither rigid nor careless. For a long moment, he simply studied her, fingers tapping lightly against the desk. Not impatient, analytical. "You handled my son well today," he began. "I tried my best," she replied. He raised an eyebrow. "Your best appears to be more effective than what trained professionals have achieved." "He just needed attention," she said. "And someone who didn't treat him like a glass ornament." A faint huff escaped him, something between a breath and a laugh. "Most people tread lightly around him. And around me. Respectfully," she said. "Fear doesn't teach children much." This time he did laugh, softly. "Fear teaches adults plenty." Their eyes met. For a moment, something unspoken flickered between them, acknowledgement, curiosity, and the faintest hint of respect. He leaned back. "Mrs. Park tells me you're settling in. Any issues so far?" "No issues," she said. "Though the hallway near the west wing hums at night. Might be electrical." He stilled. "You noticed that. Hard not to." "That hum isn't electrical," he said. "And you're better off ignoring it." Amal nodded slowly. Message received. The west wing was not her territory. "There's another matter," Jin-ho continued. "Young Jun will continue training with you." She blinked. "You want me to teach him martial arts?" "I want him to move the way he did when I saw him with you," he said. He was focused, grounded, engaged. "You're asking me to do something I've never been hired for. Do you object?" She hesitated. "No, but I'm curious why you trust a stranger so quickly." His gaze sharpened. "Do you believe I trust you?" She didn't respond. He leaned forward. "I don't trust easily, and certainly not quickly, but I recognize skill when I see it. You have experience." Her breath caught. He wasn't asking. He was stating. He knew. Not everything, but enough to make her cautious. She offered a small, composed smile. "I've lived a life that taught me how to stay on my feet. And how to throw people off theirs," he added. "Occasionally." His lips curved again. Barely a smile but unmistakably amused. "I want you to help shape my son," he said. "Not just physically. He needs discipline, strength, confidence." His eyes darkened slightly. "The world he will inherit is not kind." She swallowed. "Is that the life you want for him?" His jaw clenched. "No," he said quietly. "But it's the life that exists around him. And I can't afford to raise a weak heir." The word heir chilled her more than the air conditioning. Everything made sense now. This wasn't merely a wealthy household. This was a dynasty. A criminal empire disguised behind wealth and order. Young Jun wasn't just a child. He was a future king in a land ruled by shadows. I will help him, Amal said softly. As long as you understand something. And what is that? He asked. I teach strength, not brutality, discipline, not fear. If you want him trained to be a weapon, you have the wrong person. His gaze held hers for a long, waited moment. Good, he finally said. He needs heart, not hardness. She exhaled, relieved by his answer. He stood. You may go. And Amal. She paused at the door. Yes. Don't disappear from my sight without notice. I like to know where the people near my son are. His tone held no threat, but the implication was clear. He wasn't merely observing her. He was keeping track of her. Understood, she said. The next morning, Amal found young Jun waiting in the courtyard before she even arrived. He was already stretching. Well, his version of stretching, which looked more like a series of dramatic superhero poses. You're early, she said. I couldn't sleep, he answered. I wanted to practice. All right, she said, clapping her hands lightly. Let's see what you've got. He tried the footwork she'd shown him yesterday. His heels lifted too high, his elbows flared out, and he was breathing like a dragon in a cartoon. She burst into laughter. You look like a chicken trying to do ballet. I do not, he protested. You absolutely do. He giggled wildly and tried again. Slowly, she corrected his footing, demonstrating each step. He followed with determination, copying her movements with an earnestness that melted her. Again, she said. He repeated the sequence. Again, he did it better. Again. This time, he nailed it. She clapped proudly. That's it. You're getting sharper. He beamed. Amal, can you teach me how to throw someone twice my size? Who's twice your size? She asked playfully. Everyone, he said. She laughed. We'll get there. First, control, then strength. He nodded seriously, as if she had given him a royal decree. Minutes turned into an hour. Sweat rolled down his little face, but he didn't complain once. He was hungry to learn, hungry for attention, purpose, and something he could claim as his own. As she handed him a bottle of water, a deep voice echoed across the courtyard. You two seem busy. They turned. Jinho stood watching them, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Young Jun dropped the bottle and ran to him. Appa, I'm getting good, right? Look. Without warning, the boy attempted a modified version of the move she'd taught him. His father sidestepped instinctively, and for a split second, his eyes flashed with surprise. Young Jun hit the ground with a soft thud, groaning dramatically. Amal winced. He tried to impress you. Jinho crouched beside his son. You nearly had me, he said. You mean it? The boy asked eagerly. Yes, Jinho answered, ruffling his hair. But save your assaults for Amal. She seems to handle them better. He stood, meeting her gaze again. This time, the look wasn't suspicious. It was intrigued, respectful, and something else she couldn't name. Something that made her chest tighten for reasons she didn't want to acknowledge. For the next few days, the courtyard became their shared universe. Morning sunlight warmed the stone tiles, birds perched on the garden lamps, and the sound of soft grunts, laughter, and young Jun's tiny determined footsteps filled the air. Amal had expected him to lose interest. Children often did, but young Jun showed up each dawn, already stretching, eyes bright like he had rediscovered something he lost during those long months of silence. He wasn't just learning, he was healing. One stance, one breath, one step at a time. She didn't miss the way Jinho lingered more frequently now. He always claimed to be passing through, yet he kept appearing at doorways, balconies, and walkways overlooking the courtyard. Always watching, always observing, but he never interfered. One morning, as young Jun worked on balancing on one foot, looking very much like a tiny flamingo with too much determination, Jinho approached Amal from behind. You've awakened the entire household, he murmured. She glanced at him, startled. With what? Martial arts or laughter? Both. His tone wasn't annoyed. If anything, it carried something like gratitude. He folded his arms, gazing at his son wobbling dangerously on one leg. He used to wake me at dawn, Jinho said quietly. Every morning, asking if we could practice archery in the garden. You shoot? She asked. I used to, he replied. I stopped when he stopped asking. Amal studied him. Maybe you could start again. He gave a faint smile. Maybe. Young June suddenly toppled over with a dramatic yelp. Amal sighed. I told you not to lean forward. I didn't. The boy protested. Gravity hates me. It's not gravity, she said. It's your impatient little ankles. As he scrambled up, Jinho's laugh slipped out, soft but unmistakably genuine. Amal turned toward him. You know, he listens better when you join us. I'm not exactly dressed for training, he replied dryly, gesturing to his tailored suit. She grinned. That's the point. Your son would love to see you fall. Young June gasped. Appa, she said you'll fall. Jinho shot her a playful glare. I see you've grown bold. Or honest, she countered. His eyes sparkled with something dangerous. Dangerous not in a violent way, but in a way that made her pulse stir. She quickly looked away. Appa, come on, young June shouted. Just one try. After a long moment of theatrical reluctance, Jinho exhaled. Fine. One. Amal nearly choked. You're serious. Apparently, he muttered. Young June squealed with excitement, grabbing his father's hand and dragging him into position. Amal tried to contain her laugh as she guided Jinho. Spread your feet wider. Not that wide, unless you're trying to summon the earth's spirits. This is wider, he asked. No, that's you preparing for a split you can't do. He raised a brow. And how would you know what I can or can't do? Because you make a face every time you crouch, she said. It's like you're debating your life choices. Even young June burst into giggles. Jinho stared at her as if no one had spoken to him like that in years. Maybe no one had. Fine, he said. If I embarrass myself, it's on you. Oh, you absolutely will, she replied. He snorted, encouraging. But he followed instructions. He bent his knees, attempted the stance, and to her surprise, he wasn't disastrous. Not perfect, but not bad. Young June clapped enthusiastically. Appa, you're actually strong. I'd hope so, Jinho said. Then his gaze returned to Amal. Well, how did I do? She circled him like a critical instructor, making a show of examining his posture. Finally, she tapped his left knee. Drop this a bit, he complied. Good. She stepped back. You look intimidating. Good, he said. That's my profession. Not in that stance, she teased. You look like someone's about to serve you tea. Young June shrieked with laughter. And Jinho, he shook his head, chuckling helplessly. Something softened in the air between them, like a tightly drawn string finally loosening. But moments like that couldn't last long. Not in a house like his. Not with enemies watching. That evening, as Amal folded laundry in the servants' quarters, Mrs. Park appeared at the doorway, wringing her hands in a way that made Amal straighten instantly. Is something wrong? Amal asked. Mrs. Park swallowed. Mr. Kato is expecting you. In his office. Her gut tightened. Did he say what for? He didn't. Mrs. Park hesitated. But he seemed troubled. Amal nodded, wiped her hands on her apron, and walked the hallway to his study. She knocked softly. Come in. She stepped inside. Jinho sat behind his desk again, this time holding a small envelope, cream-colored, embossed with a crest she didn't recognize. His face was unreadable. Close the door, he said. She obeyed. He held the envelope between two fingers, tapping it lightly. This arrived an hour ago. A letter, she asked. More like a warning. She swallowed. From who? He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slid the letter toward her. Read it. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet, handwritten in precise strokes. Your enemies grow impatient. Your heir is vulnerable. Don't pretend that peace will protect him. Meet us. Midnight. Pier 7. Come alone. Amal's blood chilled. This is a trap. Of course it is, he said calmly. Then don't go, she urged. He gazed at her, expression tight. If I don't go, they target my son. And not with warnings. Her chest tightened painfully. You're walking into danger. I've walked into danger my entire life. But you're not alone anymore. Something flickered in his eyes. Something she'd never seen from him before. Then he slid a second envelope across the desk. Take this. What is it? She whispered. A contingency, he said softly. If I don't return. Her breath stopped. Jinho. He lifted a hand, silencing her. Don't open it unless necessary. Her hands trembled as she held the envelope. The weight of it felt like a goodbye. You don't have to do this, she whispered. I do, he replied. Because I have something to protect now. She stared at him, heart thundering. Come back, she said. He held her gaze for a long, intense moment. I intend to, he murmured. If fate allows it. Night fell across Sungjin, draping the estate in shadows and a quiet tension that pressed against every window and doorway. Amal barely slept, her thoughts circling around the letter and the envelope Jin-ho had entrusted to her. Her mind couldn't stop replaying the image of his calm, unreadable expression, like a storm trapped in human form. Meanwhile, in a small room down the hall, young Jun slept with one arm clutched over his chest, the other draped over his favorite stuffed animal. For 6 months, he hadn't spoken, hadn't laughed freely. And now there was life in him again. A spark, a fire she had helped him find. The weight of that responsibility pressed on Amal. One misstep could undo everything. One moment of carelessness, and the fragile trust Jin-ho had placed in her, and the fragile joy young Jun had rediscovered, would vanish. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. We know she is with him. Don't fail us. Midnight. Pier 7. Her chest tightened. She recognized the handwriting style from the letter earlier. They were watching. They were testing them. And now they had her. She dropped the phone onto the table and exhaled sharply. She was alone, but not truly alone. Young Jun and Jin-ho's lives were intertwined with hers now. Every decision she made carried consequences far beyond herself. The clock crept closer to midnight. Jin-ho arrived at Pier 7 alone, as Amal had predicted. The dock stretched endlessly into the dark water, cargo containers stacked like silent towers. A fog hovered over the surface, blending with the dim yellow light of a single, flickering lamp. He walked slowly, deliberately, hands in his pockets, scanning the shadows for movement. Every sound, a creak of metal, a distant horn, the slap of water against the dock, set his senses on alert. This was familiar territory, yet each step carried the weight of potential catastrophe. A figure stepped forward from the shadows, tall, lean, dressed entirely in black. Jin-ho recognized the signature of a rival syndicate operative immediately, one of the men who had terrorized the city's underworld for years. Calm, controlled, but deadly. You came alone, the man said. His voice was smooth, like silk stretched over steel. I always do, Jin-ho replied evenly. You know what we want, the man continued. We want the boy. Jin-ho's eyes narrowed. You want him alive, does it matter? The man asked. Either he joins, or he dies. A small smirk crept onto Jin-ho's lips. You underestimate me. The man's smirk returned in kind. We underestimate no one. But you, Kato, you are predictable. Predictable, Jin-ho thought. Not tonight. Not ever again. The fight began in an instant. Back at the estate, Amal's heart pounded as she monitored the security feeds. Jun-ho Seo, Jin-ho's trusted head of security, had been briefed earlier to keep watch over the mansion. But even with Jun-ho's presence, Amal felt powerless. Every second counted, every heartbeat mattered. She clutched the envelope he had given her, the contingency plan for, if he doesn't return. The first blow landed on screen. Jin-ho had already neutralized the first attacker with precise force, his movements a blur. But another man came from the shadows, knife drawn. Jin-ho caught the blade midair, twisting the attacker's wrist until he dropped it, then delivered a crushing elbow to the temple. Amal held her breath. She had seen men like Jin-ho in action, yes, but this wasn't just efficiency. It was personal. He wasn't fighting for business. He was fighting for his son. And for her. The skirmish intensified. Jin-ho moved like water, each motion fluid yet explosive, each strike calculated. The men who had come to threaten him underestimated the depth of his resolve. And soon, one by one, they fell. Then came the final threat, a taller man, broader, faster than the rest. Jin-ho's eyes locked onto him. This one wasn't ordinary, he had skill. Danger hummed in his every movement. They clashed in a brutal sequence, exchanging blows, parries, and counters that spoke of years of experience on both sides. Jin-ho's mind was razor sharp, yet even he knew the fight could turn at any moment. He had no room for mistakes. Meanwhile, back in the mansion, Amal could only watch the security monitors, heart in her throat, as the fight escalated. She clenched her fists, whispering encouragements she hoped he could hear. Come back to us, come back to him. She couldn't stay frozen any longer. Her own training in Taekwondo and security work surged into her mind. She grabbed her jacket and phone, knowing that if Jin-ho fell, young Jun and the household could be next. She had to be ready to act, to intervene, to protect. At the dock, the fight reached a critical point. Jin-ho had pinned the final man to the ground, chest heaving, every muscle straining with controlled effort. He looked at the man, then at the horizon. The fog had thickened, wrapping the scene in ghostly silence. Your message is clear, Jin-ho said, voice calm but lethal. I will not fail my family. A gunshot rang in the distance, but Jin-ho's focus didn't falter. The man lunged once more, and Jin-ho ended it decisively, disarming him, subduing him, ensuring no further threats would reach his son tonight. The fight over, he exhaled deeply, wiping sweat from his brow. He wasn't unscathed, his jacket torn, a cut on his cheek, but he was alive. The danger had passed, for now. Amal arrived at the dock seconds later, breathless from running through the foggy paths. She spotted him standing over the subdued men, chest heaving. Relief washed through her, followed quickly by a rush of adrenaline. Are you okay? She asked, rushing to his side. He turned, eyes locking on hers. I am, he said, voice calm, yet every word carried the weight of what had just happened. Thanks to you, I know they won't come for my son tonight. Her gaze softened. You don't need to do this alone, Jin-ho. Let me help next time. He studied her, a long pause. Then, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. Perhaps next time, I won't. They stood in the fog, the distant lights of the pier glimmering, a silent agreement passing between them. They were stronger together now, not just as allies, but as something deeper, something unspoken. When they returned to the mansion, young Jun was waiting on the balcony, eyes wide, clutching his stuffed animal tightly. Appa, he shouted, running down the stairs. You're okay, you're okay. Jin-ho scooped him up in a rare, unguarded embrace, holding him tightly. I'm here, he said softly. I promised I would be. Young Jun buried his face in his father's chest. I was scared. You have nothing to fear here, Jin-ho whispered, glancing briefly at Amal. Nothing. Amal watched, heart swelling. This was more than just a victory over enemies. This was the moment where trust, loyalty, and love converged. And in that quiet, bruised night, a family strengthened its foundation, one that could withstand storms, shadows, and threats yet unseen. The following morning, the estate felt lighter, as if the events at the dock had shifted the energy in the air. Birds chirped freely, sunlight spilled into every corner, and even the guards seemed more relaxed. But beneath that calm, Amal knew the undercurrent of danger had not vanished, only receded for now. Young Jun bounded into the courtyard, arms flailing dramatically. Amal, let's train. I want to show Appa what I learned. His excitement was contagious, yet there was a shadow in his eyes, a trace of fear that still lingered from months of trauma. Amal smiled warmly. All right, little warrior. Today, we push further. But remember, control before power. He nodded seriously, taking a deep breath as if her words were sacred. She could see it, the transformation taking place, not just in his skills, but in his confidence, his very presence. Jin-ho emerged from the house silently, hands in his pockets. He observed for a moment, the faintest trace of a smile softening his stern features. The Mafia boss, the feared man of shadows, was now also a father quietly watching his son reclaim joy and strength. Good morning, Amal said, glancing up. You'll want to see this. Jin-ho tilted his head. I see him, I meant. Watch closely. She winked. He's progressing faster than expected. Young Jun began his routine, moving through stances and strikes with precision and focus. Each movement carried intent, a visible contrast to his earlier chaotic energy. Amal guided him with subtle corrections, her voice gentle but firm. Jin-ho's eyes never left the boy. He's learning faster than I anticipated, he muttered, almost to himself. You should be proud, she said, eyes meeting his. You gave him the space to grow. A subtle tension left Jin-ho's shoulders. He wasn't used to compliments. Not like this, not in this context. Her words carried no subtext, no agendas. They were honest, and that honesty mattered. Hours passed. The sun climbed high, and sweat dripped from young Jun's forehead. But his eyes shone with exhilaration. Amal encouraged him, praising his victories and guiding him through mistakes. He was thriving, not just physically, but emotionally. Finally, he collapsed onto the mat, gasping for breath. "I did it. I did everything you showed me," he exclaimed. "You did more than that," Amal said, kneeling beside him. "You're brave. You're disciplined. You're learning to believe in yourself." He beamed, a genuine smile that reached all the way to his eyes. And in that moment, Jinho stepped forward. "Your mother would be proud of this," he said softly, though he didn't know if she would. The words felt foreign, almost uncomfortable, yet truthful. Young Jun froze. "Did you just call Amal my mother?" Jinho glanced at Amal, a subtle nod acknowledging her role. "She's guiding you. That's what a mother does." The boy's eyes filled with wonder. Amal's chest tightened. The acknowledgement wasn't just for young Jun, it was for her too. She had become part of this family, a role she hadn't dared imagine when she first stepped into the estate. Days turned into weeks. The lessons continued, each session building not just skill, but trust, love, and resilience. Young Jun's laughter became more frequent, his nightmares began to fade, and he even spoke more freely at home. Amal noticed subtle changes in Jinho as well. He would offer advice quietly, sometimes join in the routines, and occasionally share stories from his own childhood. He was opening, not fully, but enough for her to see the man beneath the armor. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the estate in golden light, Jinho called Amal to the balcony. "I need to speak with you," he said, voice low. She followed him outside, keeping her posture relaxed yet attentive. "You've changed him," he said. "Not just his skills, but his heart. I haven't seen this side of him in months." Amal smiled softly. "He just needed someone to believe in him. And he believes in you," Jinho said, voice almost a whisper. His eyes held hers. "I believe in you." Her heart raced. This wasn't a declaration of love. Not yet, but it was something potent. Something dangerous. Something undeniable. Before she could respond, young Jun ran up, interrupting them. "Appa, Amal, come see." He held a folded piece of paper with shaky, childish handwriting. "What is it, warrior?" Amal asked. "I drew us," he explained. "Look." He unfolded the page. A stick figure family, all holding martial arts stances, smiles plastered on each face. At the top, in bold letters, "Our team." Jinho crouched beside him, inspecting the drawing. "You included me," he said softly. "And me," Amal added, kneeling down. "You made me part of your team." Young Jun nodded proudly. "Of course, you're the best teacher ever." Jinho's stern face softened, a rare, genuine smile breaking through. Amal felt a warmth she hadn't expected. Weeks later, the rival syndicate's threats had subsided. Negotiations and displays of strength from Jinho ensured the family's safety, but the true battle had been within the walls of their home. The battle for young Jun's heart, his voice, and his confidence had been far more delicate, and Amal had won it. One afternoon, Amal found herself alone with Jinho in the study. The envelope from that night at Pier 7 sat on the desk, unopened. "You've been holding on to that," Jinho said quietly, nodding toward it. She nodded. "I haven't needed it, not yet." He leaned back in his chair, observing her. "You've done more than survive in this house. You've thrived. And you've given my son something I couldn't. Something I almost forgot how to give." Amal felt her pulse quicken. "You mean love?" "Yes," he said, voice low. "And trust. Both dangerous things in a world like mine." She smiled faintly. "Maybe that's why they're worth it." Jinho looked at her for a long moment, a shadow of vulnerability flickering in his eyes. "Stay," he said simply. "Stay?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "For him. For us. For this family." Amal's heart swelled. She had known she wanted to, but hearing it, from him, made the choice absolute. Young Jun's progress culminated in a public demonstration at the local Taekwondo academy. He moved with confidence, precision, and focus. Amal watched proudly from the sidelines, while Jin-ho, unusually relaxed, stood beside her, his arm resting lightly on her shoulder. As Young Jun executed a flawless spinning kick, the crowd erupted in applause. He turned to Amal, grinning from ear to ear. "Did you see that? I did it. Did you see me?" Amal clapped loudly. "I saw, and I'm so proud of you." Jin-ho's eyes, too, glimmered with pride, though he tried to mask it. That day, Young Jun's laughter, Amal's guidance, and Jin-ho's quiet presence blended into something stronger than any empire, a family. Amal realized, then, that danger would always lurk outside their walls. But inside, they had created a sanctuary built on trust, love, and discipline. And nothing, not enemies, threats, or shadows from the past, could dismantle what they had forged together. Months passed, and the Han estate transformed. The darkness that had once hung over its walls lifted, replaced by laughter, sunlight, and the rhythm of daily life. The shadows of the past had not disappeared entirely, but inside, the family had built a fortress far stronger than any steel doors or armed guards could provide. Young Jun's confidence blossomed. No longer the silent, hypervigilant boy, he spoke freely, laughed without restraint, and faced challenges with courage. Each day included morning Taekwondo routines, lessons in discipline, and, more importantly, lessons in trust, love, and resilience. Amal watched him practice a spinning kick, chest swelling with pride. "That's it, warrior. You've mastered it. Did you see me, Uma?" Young Jun asked, using the Korean word for mother that had become second nature. "I did exactly like you taught me." She laughed, sweeping back his messy hair. "I saw everything. You've grown stronger than I could have imagined." Jin-ho stepped into the courtyard quietly, observing them. The sunlight glinted off his sharp features, softened by an unmistakable tenderness. "You're progressing quickly," he said, his voice a rare mixture of authority and warmth. "I see the boy I know is still there, and more than that, I see the man he could become." Young Jun turned to his father, eyes wide. "Really, Appa?" "Yes," Jin-ho replied, kneeling beside him. "And it's all thanks to your determination, and her guidance." Amal's cheeks warmed at his words. The unspoken acknowledgement carried more weight than any contract, any payment, any promise could. In that moment, she was no longer just a teacher or a guardian, she was family. The weeks that followed were filled with milestones. Young Jun's nightmares vanished, replaced by peaceful sleep and dreams of flying kicks and heroic victories. He made friends outside the estate, attended school events, and even started showing a knack for leadership, always with Amal's gentle guidance and Jin-ho's quiet approval. One afternoon, Amal and Jin-ho found themselves alone in the garden. He handed her a small, elegantly wrapped box. "What's this?" she asked, curious. "Open it," he said softly. Inside was a delicate Taekwondo belt, black, finely embroidered with Young Jun's name and the words perseverance and courage. Her eyes widened. "He did this together," Jin-ho said. "He trained, he earned it, and I wanted you to be the first to see it. You've been part of this journey from the start." Her throat tightened. "Thank you for trusting me, for letting me in." Jin-ho stepped closer, voice gentle but commanding. "Amal, stay, not just for Young Jun, but for us. For this family we're building together." Her heart pounded. I will," she said, the words feeling both thrilling and terrifying. "I've already found where I belong." The story culminated at the annual Korean Cultural Festival. Young Jun stepped onto the stage with Amal by his side, bowing respectfully to Grandmaster Young Lee. The crowd watched in anticipation. Amal's voice was steady as she whispered to him, "Remember everything we practiced. Move with confidence. Show them your heart." He nodded, and then, with fluid grace, he executed a series of stances, blocks, and spins that displayed not just skill but courage and joy. The audience erupted in applause. Even the Grandmaster's eyes sparkled with pride. Jin-ho stood in the crowd, his stern exterior softened by pride. Amal caught his eye, and in that fleeting glance, they shared an unspoken promise. No matter what threats existed outside, they would face them together as a family. After the demonstration, Jin-ho knelt before Young Jun, taking his hand. "You've made me proud," he said simply. "And you've made me proud too, Appa," the boy replied, hugging him tightly. Amal's chest swelled as she watched the embrace. She had never imagined feeling this complete, this at peace, in a house once ruled by fear and silence. A few weeks later, the ultimate confirmation of their growing family arrived. Amal stood in the kitchen, gently pressing a hand to her stomach. Jin-ho entered, noticing the subtle glow of her face. "What's this?" he asked, curiosity and hope blending in his tone. She smiled, breathless with joy. "We're going to have a baby." For a moment, he simply stared. Then a rare, unguarded laugh escaped him, a sound full of relief, happiness, and love. "Our family," he said softly, pulling her into a protective embrace. "We're really doing it, together." Young Jun ran into the kitchen, sensing the change in energy. "Is it true?" he asked. "Are we going to have a baby?" Amal knelt beside him, holding his hands. "Yes, little warrior, you're going to be a big brother," he gasped, eyes wide, then threw himself into her arms. "This is the best day ever." Jin-ho watched them, a quiet smile on his face. For the first time, the empire, the danger, and the shadows outside felt secondary. Inside, love, laughter, and family had reclaimed the house. Months later, the estate thrived in harmony. Jin-ho focused on legitimate business, the Yamamoto threat had been neutralized through careful negotiation, and the Han family stood stronger than ever. Young Jun earned his black belt in a heartfelt ceremony attended by friends, family, and mentors. His confidence and resilience were undeniable. Amal, now with a small, visible bump, walked beside Jin-ho in the courtyard. Young Jun ran ahead, demonstrating his newly perfected kicks with pride. "Look at me, Uma. Look," he shouted, spinning midair. Amal clapped and laughed. "I see you, warrior. So strong and brave." Jin-ho watched them, heart full. "I never imagined we could have this," he admitted, voice soft. "Peace, happiness, a family." Amal leaned into him. "We created it together." Young Jun bounded back, linking arms with both of them. "Family forever," he declared, and in that courtyard, surrounded by love, laughter, and the faint echo of the city beyond, the Han family stood united. They had survived darkness, danger, and trauma. They had chosen love over fear. And together, they had built something stronger than any empire, a home, a sanctuary, and a future. The camera pans over the family standing together in the golden evening light, hearts beating as one. Jin-ho squeezes Amal's hand gently. Young Jun beams between them, clutching his stuffed animal in one hand, a black belt certificate in the other. And as the scene fades, the story's heartbeat remains. Trust, resilience, and love will always triumph, even in the shadows of a dangerous world. If you enjoyed this story of courage, love, and healing amidst danger, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with someone who loves thrilling family stories, and hit the bell icon to never miss our next story. Which part of Young Jun's journey inspired you the most? Let us know in the comments below.